So there's no way that I personally can review this movie without spoilers. I feel like I need to talk through this movie. So here we go. So again, we are soaring into spoiler territory here. But if you're a Marvel fan, you probably already know all the important stuff. And honestly, there aren't really a lot of cool surprises in this movie anyway. So first, let me break the plot down. Captain America Brave New World starts with Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross's celebration speech due to the fact that he was just elected president. He calls Sam Wilson, who's Cap, if you don't know, played by Anthony Mackie. Ross wants Cap to assemble the Avengers again, surprisingly. I mean, after throwing most of the former Avengers in jail in Civil War, Sam has a few issues with that, mainly due to the imposter syndrome that he's struggling with, comparing himself to what Steve Rogers was as Captain America and not being that type of Captain America, with the whole super soldier element. And Steve was the first Cap. Cap goes on a mission to Mexico where he's trying to recover a canister of adamantium that was stolen from Japan. This adamantium has just been discovered and taken from the Celestial from the Eternals movie, and Ross wants to use it for something. I'm not too clear on what or why. Back at the White House, President Ross invites Sam and his friend Isaiah Bradley, who Ross essentially put in prison, and who is the forgotten Captain America, which is all explained in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series on Disney+, which I know a lot of people didn't like that, but I kind of liked it. I thought it was okay for what it was. Ross explains why they need the adamantium, but before his speech is finished, Isaiah attempts to assassinate the president, Winter Soldier style. Isaiah takes off but is caught by Cap, and Isaiah has no idea what's going on and no memory of the assault whatsoever. The movie then becomes a search for who's behind the adamantium theft and the control of Bradley to kill the president. The trailer made this film feel like a spy thriller from the 70s, the way that The Winter Soldier was sort of a retelling of 3 Days of the Condor with Robert Redford, but MCU style. This film feels like it's sort of trying to be The Winter Soldier a little bit, but not as complex. You have the super soldier that Cap has to prove his innocence due to mind control, also sort of the Manchurian Candidate vibes to it. You have Cap investigating, even though he's warned not to by President Ross. It's not the movie I was expecting based on the trailer. I felt like I was kind of led in a certain way of thinking, and it didn't go there. The trailer showed way too much, in my opinion, anyway. I think this movie would have been better if I hadn't known about the Red Hulk. They marketed him a lot for this movie, and he's only in the film at the end for like 7 or 8 minutes during the fight scene. The film feels like it was made to tie in the Eternals movie that flopped at the box office and tie up the loose ends of 2008's The Incredible Hulk, and maybe to introduce adamantium into the MCU universe due to the fact that I believe Fox had the rights to that name, and of course the character whose bones were infused with adamantium, Wolverine. The MCU got away with using the word vibranium, which I think was supposed to be the MCU's adamantium, and is what Cap's shield is made of. This is just what I've read, so I'm not completely sure how right I am about this, but if you know, let me know in the comments. The movie also feels like it should have been a Hulk movie. It feels like it has more President Ross scenes than Cap scenes, and Ross has a lot of dialogue where he's trying to explain other MCU films. I thought Harrison Ford did a pretty good job as Ross. Angry old guy isn't a far reach for Ford, but I had my reservations in the beginning. William Hurt did such a great job with the character. I couldn't see anyone else in that role, but it worked, I thought. Tim Blake Nelson comes back after 17 years from the Incredible Hulk movie as Samuel Stearns, aka the Leader, who, by the way, is a Hulk villain. It didn't make any sense, really. It's like the Red Skull being the bad guy in Ant-Man. The story is really about Ross for the most part and his estranged daughter. He talks about how she hasn't talked to him since the Hulk Abomination fight where they pretty much destroyed all of Harlem. And of course, Liv Tyler comes back for a really short cameo at the end of the film as Betty Ross, which I enjoyed, but I felt like it was a little lackluster. The more that I sit here and talk about it out loud, the more that I'm convinced that this is a Hulk film. Why not just make this into a Hulk movie and let Anthony Mackie have a real Captain America movie? He seems really overshadowed by all this Hulk story. I mean, I really enjoyed the parts of the film with Isaiah Bradley, even though it's sort of like the Winter Soldier story. And Carl Lumbly as Bradley was great, and he was probably one of my favorite characters of the film. But then he gets lost in this Hulk story, and Isaiah's sort of forgotten about, like he was just there to get the Hulk story going. There are other characters that are here also that are kind of forgot about, like Esposito's character, Sidewinder, who I actually liked a lot. He was kind of terrifying and a really mean dude, but it's almost like they created him for a later needed exposition dump. And then you don't see him again. Then there's Shira Hass's character, Ruth, who is part of the Red Room Widow program, like Black Widow, but it seems like this is maybe just an introduction to a new character. Her character is never really given any backstory and kind of eventually fades into the background. The writing of this movie is, to me, one of the most poorly written films in the MCU. Not only was the dialogue so bad, and the cliches in this movie, when Cap says things like this,
"Wait for it."
It was all throughout this movie. The story itself could have worked, I think, if it was written better, because honestly, I didn't hate the story, but the way it was written was way too obvious with no real mystery to it. And again, it's not a Cap story. The Red Hulk in the comics has a lot more mystery to him. For a long time, no one knew who the Red Hulk was, and when we found out that it was Ross, everyone lost their minds. It was amazing. But here, there isn't any amazement, just a movie trying to fill in the gaps of other movies. I wasn't a fan of Danny Ramirez's Torres, the new Falcon. His dialogue was horrible, and the jokes he had to execute felt really flat and stupid. He was sort of annoying and unnecessary, and when he gets hurt, you don't really care. I know they're trying to be true to the comic, but if he mutates and grows wings like in the comic, I don't know if I could be on board for that. I didn't like the character in the comics, to be fair. Now, I thought Anthony Mackie did a great job as Sam Wilson. I love Anthony Mackie. I love him as Cap. Cap's shoes are pretty hard to fill, and Mackie does an amazing job with the conflict inside of himself of what people think Cap should be, what he's trying to be, and who he is as Captain America. His dialogue is garbage, but he does the best that he can with it and does an amazing job. I love his character and him in this role, and he deserves so much better. I really appreciated what he tried to do here, and I hope he gets a better Captain America movie written by the Russos or really anyone else so he can shine as this character. The writers and director, I feel, don't have the experience to write and direct an MCU movie. This isn't their genre of film. If you look at Julius Onah's resume, you won't find a lot of this type of film directing. There is maybe the Cloverfield Paradox that was on Netflix, but that wasn't great in my opinion. Is Kevin Feige just handing out MCU directorial jobs to anyone? Because I'll take one. Don't get me wrong, I didn't hate this movie. I know that I'm trashing this thing a lot, but I didn't expect to see what I saw. I saw it in 4DX 3D, and it was fun. It made it a little better. The 4DX was a little too aggressive for my taste, but I was actually shocked how good the 3D looked. I usually don't care about 3D at all, but I actually enjoyed it in this film, and it helped the movie considering all the bad blue screen work they had. The special effects are really bad, not so much as Quantumanium, but it looked like they were really struggling. There are scenes that you can tell are reshoots on a blue screen, especially during the Red Hulk fight scenes where it's literally just someone talking with trees in the background. But instead of going back to the location for the reshoot, they just did it all on a blue screen. It's really noticeable. Bucky comes back for a really short scene at the end, which was nice. It was good to see him, but it was just to add a cameo. I was thinking the whole time, wait, you were in Washington the whole time. You couldn't come out to help, maybe? One of the biggest issues I had is when Cap talks the Red Hulk down, sort of like Black Widow and the Hulk and the sun's getting real low scene. But Sam calms him down by mentioning his daughter. But why not have his daughter be the one to come out and do that? We were all kind of expecting it, right? It may have been too obvious, but it was better than what we got. Iron Man did a better job with the Hulk Buster in Age of Ultron in that fight scene. At least it was funny.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
And Iron Man doesn't have powers either. He has the suit. I mean, they could have done something like that. This film would have worked better as a TV series on Disney Plus, I think. Not a big budget movie. It looked really cheap. It has really bad dialogue, and the story is written pretty poorly. The action scenes are clunky and not great. The special effects look fake. The leader's look was horrible and not what I thought he'd look like at all. It's just a mess of a movie. I've heard from other people that it was slow, and honestly, I didn't feel that was the case for me. It went by pretty fast, and I enjoyed Anthony Mackie and, again, Carl Lumbly. I tried to get myself to like this movie the way I tried to like The Phantom Menace when I first saw it back in theaters in '99.
Don't do that again.
The best part of the film was talking about it to the guy next to me. I love when I get to meet people in the theater and talk film. Really nice dude. Really like talking to him. I'm giving Captain America 2 stars out of 5. Again, I enjoyed it, but it's only because I wasn't expecting a lot from these writers and this director. I kind of knew where this was going and made the best of what it was. It was another swing and a miss for the MCU, but it was still better than the Sonyverse. We've had a lot of bad MCU films since the last Spider-Man. I have high hopes for Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, though. Let's get this thing back on track, or just reboot the whole thing. Captain America Brave New World is rated PG-13. It has some strong language, some intense violence, a lot of action scenes. Nothing too crazy, though. I think you'll be okay. Let me know what you thought of Captain America and the MCU in general. Are they going to get back on track, or is the MCU on the way out? Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much to the ones who have. You guys are amazing, and I love talking to you in the comments. And remember, don't wait till it streams. Let's go to the theater, and let's see it together.
You listen to me? That little witch is messing with your mind. You're stronger than her. You're smarter than her. You're Bruce Banner. Right. Don't mention puny Banner.